So what's really interesting when we consider diversity and inclusion is that we're seeing this real tidal shift. In fact, 87% of global CEOs said they're now focused on diversity and inclusiveness strategies. And this is really interesting because just 2 years ago, that figure was only 67%, and in 2011, it was only 11%. So if you're in the business of trying to achieve better business results, or achieve and create competitive advantage, you really need to have diversity and inclusion embedded within your people and your business strategies.
It's going to take some time. They need to put some energy and effort in place to make it happen. If you compare it, for example, to creating a new product or building a client retention strategy, it's going to take time and effort and resources. So it's really important that clients have a vision of where they want to go, what it's going to look like. They have a plan of what they're going to do. They give their employees the skills to make the plan happen. Then they track it to make sure they're making progress.
Well, there's a couple of things that they need to be thinking about, and I think one of them is making sure that they have an attractive talent brand, a talent brand that's attractive to all talent demographics. And what's really interesting from interesting research that we've undertaken is that there's clear attributes that are coming out as very important to talent across the board. And these are opportunities for career progression, competitive pay, and a culture of flexibility and work-life balance. And what's also really important is that they're driving a strategy that's focused on making progress and using data to garner insights around where you need to focus your efforts is really critical in this area. We get a lot of feedback from organisations and clients asking why is their programme not making more progress? And often this is because they're tackling assumed rather than actual barriers. And to get to those actual barriers, you really need critical data insights.
What organisations should be thinking about now is moving away from just focusing on having a diverse workforce. Because a diverse workforce is basically looking at the mix around the business table. It's looking at the variety of skills, perspectives, experience and knowledge. When the business benefits really kick in is when you have an inclusive workforce. Is when everyone comes to work feeling that they are valued and recognised for who they are and the differences that they bring. And so move away from just focusing on diversity to really becoming an inclusive workplace. And again, looking beyond the four walls of the workplace to the communities where we source our talent from, where we have our organisations, looking at our stakeholders, our value chain, and our consumers and suppliers. How can we be more inclusive, to be more efficient, and to serve each other better?
I think they're taking a number of practical interventions, all the way from looking at their brands, the messaging that they're putting out there to talent so that they're attracted to the organisation, through to really applying critical interventions at every stage of their talent life cycle to mitigate for the unconscious bias and outdated stereotypes that can seep into decision makings and mean that we're not as objective as we'd like to be.
So from my perspective, what are organisations doing is, if you look at diversity and inclusion, it's basically how we're valuing differences, how we value people. One of the really basic ways how we reward and value people is how we pay them. If you look globally, there's a pay gap between men and women who are doing the same work, and actually it's up to 20%. It's lower at lower levels of the organisation. It can be over 40% at higher levels of the organisation. How can people feel valued if they know or believe someone's being paid differently to them for the same work? So what we're seeing organisations doing is saying we are going to publicly state that we pay equally for the same job. And so they are becoming equal salary certified, which is a recognition by a not-for-profit foundation that they have followed some very robust methodology. They've had their data analysed to a statistical analysis, and they've also had an on-site review making sure that there's executive commitment to equal pay, there's no systemic bias in their policies and practices, and the really important one for me, which is a tough one to crack, which is employee perception, because perception is reality. And so it's making sure that employees believe and perceive that their company is paying them the same as the person sitting next door to them doing the same job. So really committing and putting their money where their mouth is and becoming equal salary certified.